We will be in 2 Samuel 6 at some point. I don't know if I should have worn glasses. Man, it has been a long time to get here. Like this exact spot, the patience of and generosity of Andy dealing with me in my early conversion and my early days. I was a ball of energy and stuff, and we were just reminding. There's a lot of stories. I said don't say certain stories up here, and there are some stories that we were talking about last night, laughing. Andy caught a snowmobile on fire, and the flames are out here, gas fire, and he's trying to douse the flames with snow, which was absolutely ridiculous. Andy, run. It was said that me and another guy, we made it a few years into Andy's, the Calvary Church in Ottawa, and it was overheard that Glenn Floyd, he was a real estate guy, and myself, we were elders, and they said, that must be some messed up church. And it's a beautiful thing to be a mess, but God cleans us up. And I'm gonna share my testimony a little bit. We read in the Bible that God's most valuable possession is in these clay jars, in a bunch of crackpots. That his most valuable possession he's put in here, and that's our stories, that's our testimony, our witness. And I remember the first time Andy let me preach. And he had, do you know Andy's squinty happy face? Like it's like that like, and he let me preach, and I'm touched with the dyslexia and the ADD, all that stuff. I got all that. And it's very manageable with, limited coffee and sleep and stuff, and Bible. But he let me preach, and I did my best. I was anxious and nervous like I am today still, and I finished. I was like, oh, man, what's for lunch? And it was overheard a little bit later. It was like Glenn Floyd, the other elder, he's like, don't ever let him speak. I didn't know what he was saying. He was just rambling all over the place. He was over here. It's like, Andy, he sucks. And Andy's like, that smile. He was just proud. And that's, man, Paul and Timothy, we got that letter on the men's conference, and that's how I feel that Andy's treated me like a brother, like a fellow soldier, and really like family. So I come down here, and y'all, like I've heard that word so many times. We say you say y'all, but y'all makes sense. You're all our family. You're family with me, with Rick, and we're not that far apart, even though it took 9 years, 14 years of pardon submissions, 4 submissions, and 14 years to come here and get a pardon and a travel permit to the United States of America. God bless America, yeah. I'm married. I have been with my wife since high school for the first 15 years of addiction, off and on. I have a son. His name is Jordan. He is 29, lives at home with us. He is educating. I don't know where it's going to stop, but he is in, do you say university? He's in university for economics. He has epilepsy. And thank God for a medication from the United States, because he started taking that last year, and now he's 10 months without a seizure, which is a miracle, yeah. And so he's educating, lives at home, and then I have a son, Ryan. He's 27, and he is with his partner, Michaela, and I am a grandfather with baby Aria, and another one on the way. I know, I don't look that old, but I'm there. It's a beautiful time in life when you have adult kids having kids, and you just get to laugh at them, and they have a lot more information than we have, so they name things like sleep problems, and I'm like, sugar's okay. I was thinking of the Paul and Timothy, and I got to follow Andy around when I first came off the streets and got cleaned up a little bit, and he let me follow him around every day. Every day I got to follow him around. I picked you up it was a Grand Marquis, big white Grand Marquis boat. And I picked him up every day. I was just there for lunch because he always treated me to lunch. Sometimes we had pizza with gravy on it. It was my introduction to sushi. Those were good days. And we just drove around, and I got to learn. I remember the first time we laid hands on somebody, we had to pray for somebody. And Pastor, it was a great prayer. I was like, man, that was beautiful. And then I get a shot to the ribs. I was like, what? Pray. And he taught me how to pray. I had to, because you learn by doing. You learn by hearing, faith by doing, and its action. So I remember when I got my first little guy. I got my first little Timothy. He came out of the background that I came out of. And it was really cool to have him follow me, very different than me. He read 3 versions of the Bible in about 4 months. 3 versions. Like he didn't know there was different versions. He just was like, I'm going to read this version. He was very good at reading. And he read all 3 versions, and he just saw him come alive. Andy transported people to Florida church, right, in St. Petersburg. So Steve, he got to go on one of these trips, and he was a new convert, and his parents actually came to our church because we gave him a little money to go travel, and his parents wanted to see what kind of cult we were in. You're taking my boy to the United States of America. Like, who are you guys? And they thought he had, been incorporated in a cult, and it was weird, but it was a good growing experience to get outside of our little Canadian bubble and see the bigger church and all you guys. And so we got to do these trips, and then when he came back, he was released to go and help a church plant up in Perth, Ontario. He learned the guitar. He was leading a little bit of worship. He was doing a Bible study in the high school. His faith was really coming to action. Beautiful young guy. Started in ministry. And then his billet people that he was staying at, the pastor, they went to New Jersey for a bit. They were from there. And they went to New Jersey for the week, and Steve was by himself and, living all by himself, watching the house, a little bit of responsibility. And I had gone on vacation to family down near Windsor area. And I got a call from Andy, and picked it up, and he said, Steve lost his life from an overdose. See, he had met somebody in a mall that he used to play games with. And the guy came over and had a beer here and there and saw some alcohol under the dad's table and went into the cabinet and found some opiates, and they found him dead. And I couldn't believe it. I didn't even understand at the beginning. I was like, we got in trouble with the police. And my mind couldn't understand what I had heard. And I remember going home to my uncle's where I was staying. God, speak to me. This is dumb. How would this happen? Speak to me. And I opened up the King James, and I couldn't understand a thing. And I was like, you can't even talk to me. Like, heal my heart. Like, I'm so sad. I'm so hurt. How could this happen? Is it my fault? And I go to church with my cousins. It was a Baptist church. I would sit down, I'm in the middle aisle, and I was still feeling and holding the hurt and the pain and taking it all in, and I just look up on the screen, and I know somebody needs to hear this today. And it was Isaiah 43, verse 1-3. Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. And now God is speaking personally to me, because we're going to face storms, we're going to face trials, life is going to come at you. Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name. You are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. When you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. For I am the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel, your Savior. And I'm sitting next to my cousin who I hadn't seen in 5 years, and I can't even move because I'm in the middle, and God is speaking to me. And maybe he's speaking to you right now. You've been redeemed. And the weight wasn't on me, and that's what happens in this journey of recovery from addiction, is that there are some people that are going to lose their lives. And that's what I want to talk a little bit about, the tornado of addiction. I got sober in 2006, and out of that time, I was hanging out with Andy and seeking first the kingdom of God. I took that seriously, threw away my resume, and just followed Andy. And finally, I got a job for $7 an hour, minimum wage back in Canada. And it was working with guys with mental illness, and that turned into developing and directing a rehab center there that still goes, and did that for a decade. And then we did a church plant. I never wanted to be a church guy. I grew up in that. My dad was a pastor, and here I am. And so we planted Union City Church, and under that we have a couple brands related to the charity. Addiction recovery is our mission under the brand Ashes to Rubies. We have a social enterprise. We brew kombucha. Andy's trying to figure out how to get kombucha here, by the way. That could be exciting. Carlington Booch is our social enterprise where it's all volunteers, guys and girls coming out of recovery themselves and gets them connected into something. And then we also have SOS, it steps off the street, and that's street outreach. And the guy that runs that was homeless 3 years ago. And so we do all of these things under different brand names because we're a little bit different in Canada. The church is not accepted in very many places. And I think of all that stuff when you hear that. It's like, how did I get there? How did that all happen? I typically like to say, well, cocaine and alcohol. My own tornado brought me to where I am today. So a little bit about me. I was adopted about 2 years old. Came out of a pretty bad situation. My mom was in her own tornado, whatever that looks like, but there was abandonment and that kind of stuff and neglect. And I was adopted into a beautiful Christian home, and where we stayed a year while my dad finished Moody Bible College in Chicago and then finished seminary in Toronto. And then I got to go and be a missionary kid for 10 years in Asia, in Indonesia. And so those were beautiful growing up years of just being as a little missionary kid in a private school with sleepovers and all that stuff. It was a beautiful. And then we come back to Canada. We landed in Toronto in grade 10 in Etobicoke. Things were very different there. It was a little more aggressive and different culture. And then we moved to Sudbury for 2 years, and then in Ottawa for grade 10 in 1989. You could do the math. I'm that old, 52. You don't have to do the math. And my parents said we moved around, I think, 18 times. And that explains my problem. Whether I moved or not, I never felt settled. I always had this thing inside of me that wasn't settled. In the summer between grade 10 and 11, I found alcohol. And I remember taking that drink. We're not allowed to drink, pastor's kid. That's illegal. We weren't even allowed to watch The Simpsons. Very little TV, that kind of thing. I grew up in that kind of home. And I remember praying a prayer at 12 years old, I do believe. Me and my mom, she was holding my hand, and she said, repeat after me. It was the prayer of salvation. Praying for Jesus to come into my heart. I said the prayer, thank you, and that was it. When I drank alcohol, I felt like what they were saying would happen to me. Alcohol came into my heart, and it was warm, and it was fuzzy, and it made me feel settled. I didn't even know I wasn't settled, but it made me feel settled. And it quieted the noise in my head. And I could be myself, whatever that was. I felt settled. I didn't really feel like I didn't fit in or didn't belong, but I felt settled. And I don't want to get into what alcohol did to me necessarily, because it does things to all of us. But what it did for me was settle me. And it gave me a solution that what they were talking about with church and Jesus coming into your heart gave me. And so my addiction lasted 14 years. I was in and out of jail, lost my license, 2 different baby moms. The first time I met my son was behind bars in Ottawa jail. And the false solution of addiction has a shelf life. I don't know if you know that. So the best thing to pray for those people in your life is just pray that that solution stops working, because my problem wasn't drugs and alcohol. That was my solution, and that was what I was turning to. That was the spirit was guiding me, the spirit of alcohol, the spirit of drugs. It was filling me. It was driving me. It was controlling me. And pray for those that it runs out, because that's what happened to me. I missed my son's 9th birthday and my wife's 30th birthday all in the same month, because that's how my benders were going. They were getting longer and longer. I was getting in deeper and deeper into certain things that I was involved in. And I remember feeling a weird feeling, because I came home from a bender, and it was Sunday, and I had to get ready for some other things, responsibilities for Monday. And I come into the house, and I go upstairs, and I go to the bathroom. I hadn't slept probably in 5 days. I go to the bathroom, and I see one toothbrush. That's mine. And I remember way in the distance, 2 days ago maybe, getting a message, hearing it on my phone, "Don't come home, I'm packing the stuff." And something in my heart just shattered. Now I'm really alone. I got nothing. And I remember the way out. I was like, how do I get out of this? And I remember the only way out that I could come up with is to not wake up. That was the only way to stop hurting the people that I loved, disappointing my parents. Just don't wake up. So I went on a bender not to wake up, and about 8 months of psychosis. I don't know if you know what that is, but that's like living in hell, paranoid from your own thoughts, and billboards talking to you and guiding you, and TVs explaining the traumas of the world, and just such fear and tension. And I kept waking up. And I kept waking up, almost disappointed. And God intervened. And God intervened. I was up for about 5 days. Drugs I do. And God came to me. I didn't know it at the time, but all of a sudden, I had a thought in my head, and it says, "As you were hurt and abused as a child, that's what you're doing to the ones you love." And I was faced with some sober thought of like, yeah, that's what I'm doing. And I'm like, oh, I'm hurt. I didn't even understand that. I thought I was blessed to be in a beautiful family. I was like, man, I've won the lottery. If you know my mom, Nana, and Pa, butter tarts, roasts every night, mashed potatoes, gravy, like I won the lottery. I won the jackpot. But here I'm confronted with my biggest hurt, my biggest pain, and I'm actually being confronted with what the problem is my whole life. And that's the hurt that we carry, the fear that we hold inside of us. I was considering that, and then I was shown 4 pictures. One dying a violent death, things I was involved in. One being in a jail cell, been there a few times. And one being in a white padded room under surveillance, been there. And another one was like a TV screen, a monitor that was just snow. I'd known the other 3, and I feel that that was the day that I turned my will and my life over to the care of God in a way that I admitted that I was totally powerless, that my life was so unmanageable, and whatever that is, I chose it. That's the day I chose it. And over the next few weeks at a homeless shelter, I got into a stabilization program. I passed one. I'm not very good at tests, but I passed a very important test. Do you know what it is? Yeah, P-test. Yeah, I passed. I got in. I made it. Made the cut, and got through this. Just got into this treatment center at a homeless shelter, and they said, hey, I just felt like hey, little boy, I'm so glad you're here. And I'm like, still grinding my teeth. I'm so underweight. And basically their message was, you know how you get out of here? I'm like, you want out of here? I'm like, I do want out of here. I want to get back. I want to get my life back on track. And they're like, oh no, you don't want to get that back on track. You just got to throw that away. You need a new life, and you need a relationship with God. And I'm like, that sounds crazier than where I came from. I know God. Nana was flannelgraph Nana. I grew up in Asia with the flannelgraph. Anybody know that? You know, the flannelgraph with the, the arc, and it sticks to, anyway, look it up, flannelgraph. Scott knows. I know that flannelgraph. I knew all the stories. I knew God. I was around God. I was around church, but I was never in it. I was never in Christ. I was around it. And I was never in it. And I was like, I do want out of here, and okay, we'll investigate this idea. And so the next day I was on the busy street, Rideau Street, a lot of stuff going on down there, and I'm waiting for a bus, and I'm just sitting there, and I see the telephone pole, and there's one of those stapled signs and big question mark, and this guy holding it with all of his might, and it said, Jesus, question mark. I was like, oh, that could be a sign. Took it off. And I entered into the Alpha program. And I go to the Alpha program. I'm pretty sure I'm the only one at the... I didn't give my qualifications. I just said, I'm here. I don't live at a... I was a little bit intimidated because of what my living situations was. I wasn't upfront with that. And I sit down for the first session, and the presentation goes like this. If this book isn't true or real, it's a great way to live your life. Probably better than what you're doing. Yeah, probably. If this is true, it's the only way to live your life. Option number 3. There was no option number 3. There was 2 options. I have since found a third option, and it's in the middle. It's holding this book, but not getting in it. It's about being around this book, but it's not being in it. That's a third option, which I see a lot of people in. I see a lot of people around recovery, but not in it. And so I felt like I was euchred right there, and it started my journey on finding this new solution, being guided by the Spirit of God, not by the spirit of alcohol. And I started getting connected, and I started going to these 12-step meetings, local church, the Alpha program, got my wife back. She went to the Alpha program. I get excited about stuff, so I made her come. It was exciting. And I was looking at the roots. Like, why am I doing this? Why would I do the things that I did? There's pain and trauma and wounding and all of this stuff down here that I was just trying to drown out. And in my quest for this, I got a phone number from my mom. Said, here's a phone number for this pastor. He's doing a little men's conference. You might like it. You might enjoy it. It was literally the conference that we just did. Who went to that conference? Yeah, it was Andy's conference that he did. It was his second year. And so I go to this conference with Glenn Floyd, the other elder. He picked me up, and he was in his own tornado. He was having panic attacks, and he picked me up early so we would miss traffic. And he's talking on the Bluetooth speaker, and he's praying for people. I'm like, this guy's nuts. How am I in a car with this guy? This can't be safe. And he looks over at me, and he's like, hey, who are you anyway? I'm like, I'm John Ruby. Who are you? And he's like, Glenn Floyd. John Ruby. Are you Carl Ruby's son? Yeah, I am. Wow, I've been praying for you for 10 years. Because he went to my dad's church. And there's a whole community that was praying for me. And if you know anybody in your community that's in addiction, it's a fight for their life and they need your prayers. And I went to this conference, and I was told to sit in the front row wherever I went. Can't get sober in the back row. Not prescriptive for those in the back row, but just sit in the front. And I was sitting in the front. I heard some testimonies, and then they told us to come back, a little break, and they said, come back, we'll do a afterglow. And I'm like, oh, dear God, what is this? This feels very uncomfortable. I'm not used to that kind of thing. Like, I just want to sit in the front and learn something. And we come in, and to my horror, the lights are dim. The chairs are kind of scooted in. And it's like, whoa, wow. And I was sitting in the front, and the pastor starts talking about this relationship with God that I had never really heard before. Probably have, but my ears were open for the first time. My eyes were open. My heart was open for the first time. And they said, anybody want this kind of relationship with God, just stand up. If you want healing for your body, just stand up. And I don't remember making the conscious decision, but I stood up. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm probably the only one standing up. My ears are red. I'm like, oh. And then to my horror, the worst thing happened. Men started touching me. They put their hands on me and started praying. And I'm like, I just shut my eyes. If you get comfortable, just shut your eyes like the ostrich. Just nothing else exists. And if you're nervous, shut your eyes. It's my little pro tip. So I just shut my eyes, and immediately as I shut my eyes, I got a video of my mom's story. My mom had told me the story, and it was their sanctuary was letting up church was out for the afternoon, and a lady went over to my mom and said, "Hey, is that your son?" My mom never seen this lady, never saw her again. And my mom said, "Yeah." "Why?" "He's troubled, but he's going to be okay." And for the first time in my life, I heard that I'm okay. And I never heard that before. And something in my heart just shattered. And it started coming out of my eyeballs and then my nose. And God is telling me in my own language that I'm okay. That's all it said. After all the words and the rehabs and my parents and the rules and the jail time, nothing got into my heart except the voice of God that said, "You're okay." I saw myself like this. I started kind of giggling. I'm in a fighter's pose. I'm like, what am I fighting? There's no one in front of me. My shoulders just started coming down. A cloud started evaporating full of anger and resentment and fear. Just started evaporating. And I felt like this liquid love flow into me. I never felt like that in my whole entire life. Alcohol was a fake feeling. We sit down, and then the pastor says, "Okay, we're going to open up the floor to the voice of God." I'm like, "Oh, great. This is getting better." My snot is down to here now. I'm glad I'm in the front row. And then a couple people said some things, and then a guy right behind me said, "Somebody's struggling with drugs and alcohol your whole entire life. God wants you to know that you're okay." And whatever little thing I had inside just burst like a little bubble. I was just pouring out. I had to get out of the room. I was so overwhelmed. I was so overwhelmed with the love that I was feeling for the first time. It was the first time I actually felt love, and that's God's love. And that's the only way that you will know love, if you have God's love. And I remember getting up the next morning. Yeah, I still smoked cigarettes. That didn't release for a little while. Light up a smoke, and I'm like, "Oh, wow, that's the biggest tree I've ever seen. That's a big tree. That's a green tree. That's the greenest tree I've ever seen. Man, the rain is so cool. Wow, I smelled worms. How do you smell worms? I smell worms. I smell the leaves." I was like, and God just showed me that my whole entire life, there was a hand on my head that was trying to drown me. And that night, God released it. By the power of God, I was released from that hand. And I just want to say I was all cleaned up. Everything was good. No, I got to follow Andy around for the next, year or years. Like his little Timothy. Got to babysit me. But that's how I grew. Another man invited me into his life. Man, the tolerance that he must have had for me. I got you ready for all your kids. Come on. But that's the biggest thing, is connection. He made a connection with me that helped me change my life, like by the power of God. But he was instrumental of grabbing my hands and putting them in the hands of Jesus. And forever, I'm thankful for that. Man, we're running out of time. I even have my clock, Andy. All right. One of the thinking on the spot. One of the blessings that I got to do this year was, because some of the addiction recovery resources that we've created, I was invited with a team of guys, Rick was a part of that, to go to Iqaluit. Look it up. You never think of anything like that as north as you would ever want to go. There's no roads to go anywhere. It's an isolated community. There's 17 of them up there. It is the suicide capital of the world. Suicide capital of the world. And we got to go up to maybe be a light. We got to go up to investigate. And at the airport, I got chirped because I had my wife's luggage. It was like a rose gold. And so I kind of made fun of it myself. And he was like, "Yeah, I was thinking that my wife had the same set." I was like, haha. It's 5 o'clock in the morning, though, so you don't want to make fun of guys too much in that time. And so he said, "Why are you guys going up?" I said, we're all going up for this addiction recovery stuff. And he's like, "Oh, wow, my wife is the government official up there in charge of mental health and addiction recovery and suicide prevention. Here's her email. Really busy. She probably won't answer back, but one of our guys, Don, the leader, he gave her an email, and in the bottom of it said, "We're not Bible thumpers." Like, I would never say that, but I don't even know why he said, "We're not Bible thumpers." She took our meeting the next day and said, I'm overwhelmed with the busyness, but you said you're not Bible thumpers. I don't even know. What does that mean? I'll tell you, we had her crying. Yeah, thump that, Bible. We had her crying 3 minutes. Hey, Rick, she was crying. She was overwhelmed with the capacity. She can't even look at a dog on the street because of her pain and her hurt. And I was like, man, I got Jesus to carry my burdens. This woman has nothing. And she's up in this isolated community with no one that is qualified to do what they're doing, and the death and the violence and the hurt and the pain. She's carrying it all. And through this conversation, we got to talk to another guy, and he was the program director of the North. There's 17 settlements, and he goes to each settlement and tries to bring the men together, puts a sign on the door, "Come together, men, we're going to investigate how to have a healthy community." And they start with suicide. So they start on the pretense that we can't do this alone. We have to help each other, carry each other's burdens. They leave Jesus out of it. But we do need the community. We need the family, not the community, with the family to carry each other's burdens, but we need Jesus as well at the center of that. And so they make a sled. They have all the ribs of the sled. They have the cross beams. They have all the things to make a sled, and each man gets a rib, and he has to do art on it. There was one guy who was just sitting there, despondent, and the director comes over, "Hey, you want to participate? You doing okay? Is this too much for you?" He goes, "Yeah, I could do it." And so, they finish all the art on the sleds. They're collecting it, and they see his. Director sees his, and he's like, it said, "I'll see you soon." Program director's like, that's a suicidal thought. "Is this too much for you, sir? Is it like, are you okay? Do you need help? Do you need us to call somebody? Do you need counsel?" I said, "No. That's the last thing my son said to me before he took his life." And they're so impacted by that. And they made a sled because we can't carry this weight. In where I come from, in the addiction recovery community, I lost 17 men that I work with personally one-on-one. 17 in the 3-year period. You know why? Disconnection. And they weren't really in recovery, they were around it. But isn't that the entryway in? God's grace. Come on in. Come on into the love story that he's written for thousands of years, that we get to be invited into that narrative of his love. It's a lot of weight. I can't carry it myself. You can't carry it yourself. We need the community. We need the family to be able to help support it. And that's how I look at addiction is we're born into it. This is how I look at recovery. I believe we all need recovery. Everyone's sitting here because you're born out of the Garden of Eden. And isn't that what we get to recover? Isn't that the gospel? Isn't that the good news? Is that I can have a hand-in-hand relationship with my Father like the Garden of Eden? We are the temple of God. We are the temple of God. And that's what we all get to recover because we start out of it. We start in the world of fear. And let me just narrate this for a little minute. Fear came into the Garden of Eden in the form of a serpent and said, hey, you guys are missing out. The first conversation about God without God, hey, you're missing out. You want to be like your dad, right? You want to know all things good and evil. Surely you won't die. But the result of that conversation, for the consequences, the result, they were expelled from the garden, and that's where we start, outside of the garden. We're born into fear. And in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, it says, fear is a corrosive red thread shot through the fabric of our existence that sets us in trains of motion. It's not an emotion, it sets us in motion. It drives us. It's our slave driver. That's what we're born into, and we need a savior from it. God says, my perfect love will cast out fear. God's perfect love will cast out fear. Is fear an emotion? Why would God cast that out? I understand the reverence and fear of God in a different light, but fear is our enemy. And only God's love can cast that out. So that's what I get to do a lot of the time, is lead people into that relationship for God's perfect love to cast out their fear. I was reminded Andy beat us down with Acts 2, 42. Is it 42? The Acts church, they sold all they had for the need of others. Any of our resources are going to be free. It's not a great marketing plan, but it's free because we want to bring all that we have. I just encourage you, church, to bring all you have for those that are fighting for their lives, be on mission. Matthew 9:36, Jesus looked at the people harassed and helpless. He had compassion. And if you leave here today with compassion in your heart, you're more like Jesus. And I'm telling you, it doesn't matter with the guy. Do you guys have guys on the corner? We saw a guy on the corner. You know, I get asked this all the time. Should I give that guy a quarter? Should I give that guy a loonie? We have loonies and toonies. Just give the guy a quarter. Who cares what he's going to use it for? Have compassion of Jesus. Get on your knees and look him in the eye and say, man, God bless you. And give him the quarter, because that's the compassion of Jesus. Do we stop there, Andy? It's 11 o'clock. We could stop there. Man, Samuel 6:1 though. Man, 1 sec, Andy. It's an interesting story of the kingdom being reclaimed by men after God's own heart, David. As they were bringing the Ark of the Covenant, there's the ox. Did you cut off my... Oh, I thought you cut off my mic. I was like, oh, he was serious, man. They take this seriously. There's going to be a trap door. There I go, back to Canada. Shoo. They got the oxen, and they're carrying the ark, the presence of God. And the ox stumbled. Uzzah reaches out and tries to steady God. Imagine that. Tries to steady God. And he was struck dead. And there's stories like that in the Bible of God's like holiness striking down men. The priests, they had a rope attached to them in the presence of God, the holiness of God. And as you read these stories, it's like, oh, I don't know about this God of love. We read Ananias and Sapphira. Remember, they were part of this Acts 2 church. Bring all that we had, and we're going to give it all away. But they held a little bit back. They were asked, is that everything? In my church, if you want to sell some property and give me some of it, I'm happy. I'm not even going to ask you, is that everything? That's a bold question. Is that everything? Are you sure? Thanks for the 45 grand, but probably a little bit more. They exaggerated it and withheld from God, not man, from God. And they were struck dead, the holiness of God. And my revelation of this is that's what I need. I need the holiness of God in my temple to strike dead my old self. All I can do is be willing, God, take me. Here's my life. Throw out my resume. That's not prescriptive, by the way. It could be proverbial. Just here, all my qualifications, take me all. And it's not up to you to die of yourself. It's up to you to give yourself to God fully and let His holiness burn away the things inside of you. Close your eyes. Take this away. Otherwise, it's just self-help. Otherwise, it's just self-effort. And I see that all the time. We go on this side of legalism, of I just got to try hard. I just got to do the things. I just got to read this, write it, all of those things, and I can leave God out of it. Or God's grace. I don't really have to read it. It's good. I believe it, right? I believe it. I do good things. But it's okay if I do a little of this and a little of that. I need to be in it and not around it. That makes sense? I need to be in it and not around it. And I need the holiness of God to burn inside of me the things that I can't separate myself from, because I could never separate myself from drugs and alcohol. For 15 years, neither could jail, neither could babies, neither could losing your license, neither could fill in the blank. I needed God to separate myself from that. But through the process of grace and love and mercy, I got a relationship with God like I had with drugs and alcohol, but the real thing. He sometimes makes me cry when I don't want to. When I think of Andy and the patience and the love that he gave me. I'm sitting here I'm like, oh man, just the music is filling me. The Spirit of God is dancing inside of me, and I want you to have that experience, because me with just this dry sobriety of do, I would never make it through. I got to be in Christ. I got to be in God. I just want to pray for you. Look at all my notes. That was silly. I had another good story too. It's about half measures. Either God is everything or he's nothing. Half measures will avail you nothing. It says that in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. It says that in the Bible. Render Caesar what is Caesar's and what is God's. What's the inscription that God's talking about? He has his inscription on your heart. Give your whole heart to him. Not your half heart, your whole heart. And so can I pray for you guys? There are some of you today that are around church. You do all the right things. You check the boxes. You go to Bible study and you pray. Probably pray for your kids. You're teaching them the Bible a little bit, but you're not in it. And then maybe you're over here of like, I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm pretty good. Grace of God. I got careers. I got retirement. I got the things that I got to think about, to relax, all those things. We'll let the young kids fight the fight. Old guys, can I say that? I think so. Old guys, we need you more now than ever. We need real men. We need strong men. We need older men, not old men, older men. Right, Jim? We need the gray hairs to help us. We do. We need cheerleaders. We need support. We need to be raised up, lifted up, cheered on. Be all in, not wholehearted. So I just want to pray. If you're half-hearted right now, I know that's a hard ask to stand up, but if you're if you're half-hearted right now, you're around it but not in it, would you just stand up? And then if you have a loved one, or if you're in addiction, or if you have a brother, sister, a family member, somebody that works at Publix that is addicted, that is fighting for their life, maybe codependency or food, whatever it is, pornography, if you're in that, or you have a friend, would you just stand up right now? I want to pray for you. I came from Canada, so I want to pray for you. Yeah, there's no shame here. It's like, whatever you're standing up for, it's you and God. Father, I just thank you for each person here. I thank you for the opportunity that I got to be here. That's almost impossible for me to be here. I thank you for that opportunity. I thank you for your love. I thank you for your grace. I thank you for the love story that you've written for thousands of years that you invite us into. I thank you for the privilege. Each person standing, you know their specifics. You know maybe they're around it and not in it. Maybe they're around Christ but not in Christ. Maybe they've been disheartened. Maybe they've seen some things that wounding from the church, wounding from a pastor. They're on their own. I just pray, Father, that you cause them to have an experience with you that they can give their whole heart to you. And those other folks that are standing up that are either in addiction, around addiction, loved ones, we just pray that they recover from this horrific problem that they're trying to solve with substances. Would you just intervene in their life? Would you protect them? Would you give them an experience that no drugs or alcohol could, or pornography or food, or fill in the blank relationship? Would you just, by your grace, come in the middle of their narrative and speak to them? And we pray for the power of God. Pray for eyes to be open. Pray for people to pick up their mats and walk. In Jesus' name, amen.